Hey, hello and welcome to this talk on what a logical application is in a decoupled cloud native environment. My name is Joseph Akayesi, a software engineer and a contributing member of the Ortelius open source project. Now, for us to understand what a logical application is, it's important for me to state this premise, and I'm sure a lot of you will agree with. The growing adoption of microservices has caused an equal growth in application complexities. Adopting a microservices architecture comes with a lot of complexities. However, such complexities need not trickle down into the way that we track and version our application supply chain. An application in a cloud-native environment can have the ease of a monolith if we define clear ways to show their logical applications dependencies, SBOMs, and metadata. And Ortelius is one way to get the job done. Now let's talk a bit about supply chain management. And let's take a step back in time. In the beginning, we were deploying applications as monoliths. And so all of our dependencies were baked into a single package. And we just had to ship that package to get our application across to users. Now, security teams and DevOps teams were able to generate a single SBOM, a single CV, and other supply chain components all within that package. And that was easy because you just had to generate all of these files within a single package. Being able to drill down into the different vulnerabilities the application was exposed to, or be able to tell the different packages that made up applications by way of the software bill of materials, which is the SBOMs, was easy because everything was within a single file. But then we adopted microservices, and our application was decomposed into all of these different services spread across different teams, which means that supply chain components were also spread across different microservices. SBOMs, CVs spread across all of these different microservices. Being able to drill down into, say, a vulnerability of our application meant that we had to go through all of these different SBOMs spread across the board, which became a bit more complex. Now, imagine a scenario where you are an e-commerce company, for example. Your application has different microservices: the user service, the payment service, the cart service, the authentication service. And your company also has different products, say a marketplace product, right? A marketplace application where users can buy products. And then the internal team has a bill payment application that it uses to pay bills, class service bills, whatever it may be. Now, all of these different teams, right? All of these different applications are consuming the same payment service. And so one day the customer service calls up the marketplace team and be like, hey, users are complaining about not being able to pay for products on the marketplace. What's going on? And the marketplace, they go like, hey, we haven't done any changes to the application. This thing was working an hour ago. What do you mean by people cannot make payments on the application? The whole time, it was the internal team that requested for this change, and the payment service had to be, say, a new feature had to be built on top of the payment service so that the internal team may use it for whatever reason. When a scenario like this plays out, it's very difficult to find where the issue is stemming from because services are spread across different teams. Now, Ortelius allows us to be able to do or view where the issue is coming from very easily, because what Ortelius does is, with all of these supply chain components, right, all of these SBOM CVs spread across different microservices, Ortelius does this so easily and beautifully that it aggregates all of these different SBOMs up until the application level. And that's where the notion of a logical application comes from. Because once these SBOMs are aggregated up to the application level, more correctly, the logical application level, then we are able to easily see where vulnerabilities right? Be able to tell all of the different S-bombs that our application is consuming, right? All of the different CVEs of all of these microservices that our application is consuming. And that's where the notion of a logical application comes from. A logical application gives us a bird's eye view into all of the different components of our application, all of the different S-bombs and CVEs. We can be able to tell things like the blast radius of our application, say an exposure or a vulnerability within a microservices in a microservices, be able to tell the blast radius of that microservice and how it affects the different services of our logical application, all the way up until how it affects our application itself. Be able to generate difference reports that tells us the differences in different releases, right? With every release of a microservices, of a microservice, our logical application also has a new version. You're able to tell the difference report on how our applications has changed with time and with every release of a new microservices. And that's what Ortelius helps us do. So let's talk a bit about Ortelius and put into perspective what Ortelius does. Ortelius is a central catalog of supply chain and DevOps intelligence. It is designed to track and version composition details for every component of your software supply chain, along with all consuming logical applications. With Ortelius, you can easily view your application's logical applications SBOM, I beg your pardon, CVE, service dependencies, and inventory based on versions, even in a decoupled microservice architecture. Now, the Ortelius open source project is a very interesting one, right? It's an open source community of diverse people, people from Pakistan, people from the US, people from Africa, me being from Ghana. And it's a very great place to learn microservices, to learn about supply chain, to learn about DevOps, and to contribute. If you have never contributed to an open source project, then Ortelius is a great place to get started because it's very easy to contribute. And so if you want to know more about Ortelius, you can check out our GitHub page right there on my screen. Or you can check out the website, which has a very elaborate blog about how to contribute to the Ortelius project. You can also follow us at Ortelius OS on Twitter, just to keep updated on what's new in Ortelius. So if you have any questions, if you need any help with Ortelius or anything related to tech, you can shoot me an email or you can DM me on Twitter. Follow me if you want. And we can talk about tech or anything related to Ortelius. And so with that, I want to say Medase, which means thank you in the Akan dialects, a very widely spoken language here in Ghana. And I wish you the best. Thank you for your time and goodbye.